Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communication Committee of Academic Standards. Her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun. And this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan. Sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. Hopefully you've built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number. Note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning, so I'd always ask your teacher. But the key is I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common, or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class, and then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you've accomplished in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing, and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing, and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the 3 key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 2 or a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the new session. Give ourselves a second so Tasha and Dr. Del Hierro can get set up. Got you both on audio right now? Just checking.
I'm here.
I'm here and ready. Welcome, everyone.
Awesome. Great presentation. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can submit those in the question box. Go to the right-hand side of your screen, go about halfway down on your control panel, you'll see a questions box. Just type your question in there, hit submit. And we do have a couple questions already. First, I'm going to send to you, Tasha. This comes from a master's student who was taken aback at the changes to APA since he last attended. Can you explain some of the differences between APA 7 and 6, and potentially point him to a guide for what has changed?
I will answer that to the best of my knowledge. I haven't been as much heavily involved using APA version 7. I don't know if Dr. Del Hierro can speak to that a little bit, but we do have under the resources that I was showing previously, right when you log into my TLC portal, under my resources, there's an APA basics that should be updated to kind of break down what would help with that. And there are a ton of tutorials. I have seen those for APA 7 online if you are looking them up in general. Other than that, Dr. Del Hierro, do you have any comments on the difference between 6 and 7?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the biggest differences that I've seen are in the headings. I haven't seen any very significant updates outside of the way the headings look. My go-to resource is Purdue OWL. They just do a much better job. Purdue has an online writing lab that the full staff that updates their guidelines constantly. So they're really a great go-to resource, and the one that I use. I also teach at the doctoral level, and I mentor doctoral students with their dissertations. And to be honest, I'm really not an APA guru. So that should tell you something about how much emphasis you should put into APA. Really, the biggest thing that we're looking for is a consistent format. So double spacing, your lines, your margins need to be a 1 inch. Headings are really a great way for you to organize your thoughts, but it also highlights to your instructor that you're addressing all the main points. So if you care deeply about getting APA right, then I would refer you to Purdue OWL. But really, outside of that and in-text citations and your references section, that's really where I would encourage you to focus on. Just formatting your paper with the margins, your headings, your in-text citations. And if you look at those, really there's really not a whole lot of big changes, especially not even worth mentioning here. Things like this, like the references section, instead of double spacing it, now your references are single spaced. But you're not going to really be marked down on that. I would really encourage you to focus more on the content of your assignments rather than APA. Now, I know some instructors really harp on that much more than someone like me, but make sure your formatting is consistent. Look at Purdue OWL, look at our online resources, but don't let that be a roadblock for you to continue to make progress in your assignments and submit them. It really is, in my opinion, one of the minor details, aspects of your papers. But please reach out to your instructor to get a sense of how they feel about formatting papers, and I hope that gives you some guidance.
Yeah, and if I may too, a reminder that this question was from someone starting their master's degree, which there is kind of more of an expectation to come in with a basic understanding of it or learn it. At the bachelor's level or associate level, for many who are on here for that, you're just starting to tap into that. So there isn't an expectation that right out of the gate, you're going to understand that. So I want to make sure people get that too.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I mean, this is a first day of class webinar. One of the things that I think I would encourage you to think about as far as your mindset goes, is you're going to be put into a class that your instructor already kind of expects for you to have some transition issues. One of that being APA expectations. So work with your instructor on that and approach it with the mindset of it not being perfect. Don't strive for perfection, strive for progress and continually making improvement. That's really a mantra that'll get you to graduation.
Great, thanks for the answer and all that great advice. Next question, this one's for Tasha, and I think this one comes up every session, is when is the orientation due and is it graded?
Sure. I facilitate orientation, so I'm happy to hopefully see you in there. It's not due at any time. We recommend that you do it prior to class starting, or this week, since it's your first week of class, to do it prior to jumping into your regular class. It's not an 8-week course. It's really self-guided in the sense of if you want to take 20 minutes to go in and browse around, great. If you want to take 2 hours or more, there's plenty in there to help you feel comfortable. So it's a great jumping off point to log in and see what the learning platform looks like. You're going to get some great tips like we've talked about here. You're also going to practice submitting assignments and being involved in discussions, but nothing is due. I will be in there any day. And so, if you get in there on Friday and you just want to browse around, you will have access to it for 6 months after the session starts. So from the time that you start your class. And the reason for that is you can reference the materials in there if there's something that stood out to you and you want to go back to that, because students occasionally ask that. I would recommend, though, by the time Module 1 is due in your first class, that you would have already reviewed the orientation. And Module 1 is always due 2 weeks prior to 2 weeks following the start of class. So it's going to be not next Sunday, but the following Sunday is when your Module 1's due.
I'll just kind of hop in.
Okay, go on, Dr. Del Hierro.
Yeah. So a lot of students really bypass the orientation because they feel, hey, it's not necessary, so why would I need to do the orientation? But let's just call a spade a spade. When you transition to any university, doesn't matter if it's online or brick and mortar, you're going to have transition issues. So with knowing where the bathroom's at, or for us, it's where you're going to submit your assignments or where you can find your course readings. 20 minutes, especially perusing that orientation where you can hop around it, just looking for the most important parts of your class, knowing where to find things, knowing where to submit things, knowing how to submit things, that'll really save you a lot of time and frustration in the back end, or just while you're transitioning. So I just would like to, encourage you all, piggybacking off of what Tasha said, a little bit of time in that orientation will save you, will just make your transition into Trident that much smoother, that more enjoyable. And so that's all I really have to say about the orientation. And Tasha runs a great class, a great course within it. So make use of her.
Yeah, and don't forget to check the chat box on your control panel, because I put a few of the resources that we mentioned in there already at APA 647, Purdue OWL, and link on where to submit your assignments. Those are all definitely useful and should help out. Let's see, a next question, I'm gonna stay with Tasha on this one, is that which assignment is due first, threaded discussion, SLP, or the case?
Sure, that's a great question. I'll say what is typically due, and at the same time, they're all due on the Module 1 deadline. However, it's recommended, and your grading rubric on your discussion will ask if the student participated within the first week of class. So I always recommend, when you sit down after you do an introduction, which is not a graded assignment, introduction is just saying, hey, I'm here, to jump in, start reading some of the materials, and to jump in and do your Module 1 initial post, because right out the gate, that's going to be a small assignment that you can kind of knock out. You can start to get a rhythm, get a gauge of how long it's going to take for a discussion before you jump into your papers. One dean recommended, and I think I stand by this, is week 1, try to do your initial post within the first few days of class. Some instructors will require it by Wednesday, some won't, but usually by Saturday. And then try to do at least one assignment, whether it's the case assignment or the SLP, in the first week, so that by week 2, you're not rushing to get in the whole module, and you can go in, over various days and do your your follow-up peer responses, because usually a discussion will have an initial post and then 2 or more peer responses where you're engaging in that academic discussion, and then doing the other one assignment, which is a case or an SLP, that second week. And life happens. As you all know, things are crazy right now. And so if you set a nice pace with a discussion and a paper or a quiz the first week and the second week, you'll be paced nicely in case something comes up that last weekend that everything is due. But you will be graded on the discussion being in within the first week of class.
Those are really great tips from Tasha. And I would just like to add, some classes will ask you to do the SLP first or the case assignment first. So just be mindful of that. But in general, you have a lot of flexibility. It really is one of the best parts of this program, and just being a part of the Trident community is that flexibility. And so if things pop up, we're happy to be flexible with you. This is coming from an instructor. It's coming from a program chair. This is what we are telling our faculty, and all of our faculty have seen quite a bit and have supported students through their many different life circumstances. But one of the aspects of submitting assignments and kind of gauging which assignments you should do first, in my opinion, goes back to the points that valued on them. So the case assignment is worth 50 points. The SLP is worth 20 points. The discussion is worth 20 points. So the bulk of your grade in the class is going to be that case assignment. So for some of you, you may want to get that one out of the way first in your first week. Some of you may want to build or just build momentum, taking on a smaller assignment like the SLP and the discussions. Again, the discussions are worth 20 points, just as much as an SLP written research paper. So make sure you put in that time to put in some quality posts and maintain consistent participation throughout the discussion, because those are really some of the easier points that you can rack up and boost your grade. But I would encourage you to find a pattern or a system that works best for you. For me, when I was a student, it was working on the SLP first, building some quick momentum, hopping in on the discussions, and then that second week working on the case assignment. That's what worked for me, but I know other students think otherwise, have different preferences. So find a system, find a pattern, a schedule that works best for you.
Thanks for that advice. And on the other hand, I like getting the case study out of the way first, because that way the way I view it, it's all downhill from there. Moving on to the next question. This one, I'll direct this one to you, Dr. Del Hierro. This is from a military student. If we have a student who knows they're going to be out in the field for an extended period of time, how that to their advisor or professor?
I would first say both. As an instructor, I want to know what's happening to you so I can support you in the classroom. But your student success advisor, if you can't get a hold of me or you don't feel comfortable reaching out to me, we have a number of students who go through the student success advisor. I will say that I have a strong preference for, and I know instructors have a strong preference for you to just reach out to them, in advance, or if something arises, so that we can work directly with you. Sometimes it's a little challenging to, if a student success advisor says, hey, this student in your class is going to be gone. Well, now I have to go into the class and log in and access your email and then pull up your email and send you an email, when you could just come directly to me and I'll respond to you within minutes. So I would just continue to build on that relationship. But the truth is, your student success advisor is going to build a very strong relationship with you from the beginning all the way to graduation. And some of you will just have that. It's just easier to you'll probably have their email saved to your favorites or something, and it's just easier to reach out to your success advisor than it is to your instructor, and that's fine. You know, no one's gonna hold it against you. Bottom line is we're here to support you. So whatever you need from us, whoever you want to talk to, go ahead and do it. Just keep us posted so that we know how to best support you. And we have a real strong network of relationships within Trident, between the academic side, finances, students, admissions, advising, registration. So all of us are in a constant close web of communication, and so we are always looking to keep each other informed. So it'll get to the appropriate person if you just reach out to somebody.
And I will say too, going into the field varies, right? It could be you have internet access at night, you don't have internet access at all for a few weeks. So plan as best as you can ahead of time. As Dr. Del Hierro said earlier, these classes are flexible. So if you're going into the field for a week or two during a class, that's fine. That's what our classes are set up for, is you to live a life as an adult who's busy and to be able to achieve your goals too. So I think at the bottom line is communication. Tell your advisor, tell your instructor, because we'll be able to work out options for you. And I will always say, you can always work ahead. You can always catch up on the back end. If it's the very last day of class that you miss, there are extension requirements that you would discuss with your advisor if you've submitted a certain amount of work. So that's kind of the short answer for all that.
And sometimes our civilian students may feel a little out of the loop when when we receive these military questions. That's just but our policies and practices that were originally geared for our military community benefit you too. So you're gonna have multiple. We recognize that you have multiple competing priorities. So if something pops up and you stub your toe, you need to go to the emergency room, let us know. Shoot us an email. We're happy to be flexible with you. So life gets in the way. Almost all of you will be adult students, and we know that you have different priorities: family, work, school, among other things. But we are full. There isn't an excuse that we have not heard, and that we are fully prepared to support you in. We want to see you to graduation, and we take that very seriously.
Great, thank you. Maybe sometime I'd love to read the list of excuses. Might be a pretty funny read. And last question for you, Tasha, and it's, as a bachelor's student, I want to try to finish the program as quickly as possible. What course load would you recommend?
Sure. That's a tricky question. Typically, our students the average student will take 1 to 2 classes. 2 classes is considered full-time because our classes are weighted more heavily mostly they're at 4 credits each. So I would recommend, depending how quickly you want to go, start with 2 and see how that goes. And then you can build up 3 as the maximum amount you can have of open courses at a time. Some students like to stagger their classes and overlap, and some like to have fresh, clean start and end dates all at the same time. So if you can find it, honestly, it's going to come down to time management. If you can find a way to manage your time well at 2 classes a session, try picking up that 3rd class, and you'll get through your degree pretty quickly. There are 6 sessions available if you just go back to back a year, and 3 classes a session. That could be 18 classes in a year. And if you have less than that, then you can be done sooner. The great thing is your advisor, right out the gate, once you get through your first module of this class, your advisor is going to be reaching out to you, and they want to plan out your academic path. And anytime a student emails me what they want to do, I'm like, yes, because I want to plan what's going to work for you and your goals. And so we could build that out and show you exactly what that would look like.
I would also just, in addition to that, reach out to well, your student success advisor will have a really strong idea of this, but your financial advisor as well. Some of you are on different, degree levels. Some of you are masters, some of you are undergraduates, some of you have different funding sources. So if you're going to make any changes to your enrollment schedule, like taking breaks or overlapping, it is likely that you may want to just check with your student success advisor and financial advisor, especially to make sure that all that funding is in place.
Great, thanks for that. And then we're going to end things with a student success story, but just one quick follow-up question for Tasha. Could you clarify what you mean by overlapping sessions?
Sure. So if you went to Trident's main site, you would see that every session there is a start date for the classes, but it doesn't mean that you should take a class every month. So every month of the year, there is a session start depending on the date. Usually, like for today, is the January 24th session. And so you would typically take a class for the next eight weeks. Once that ends, then you would start your class again on March 21st. And then after that, it would be middle of May. So you're kind of on that just continue classes. However, because there are sessions that start every month, if a student wants to start 4 weeks in, there's usually a different class because we have a whole another cohort of students who are starting their first classes on February 21st. And so maybe you get so far ahead that you want to pick up a class in between. We will be reaching out to you from time to time to see if you want to do that option. And so then you're staggering. And so you're just starting 2 classes at different dates, overlapping by 4 weeks. That was my really complicated explanation. I hope that made sense, but we can work it out, no problem.
Yeah, if you have any questions, the contact information is on the screen now. And I want to thank Tasha for her contributions today, and as well Dr. Del Hierro. And thank you so much. And we're going to end things off with a student success story, which I have the rare pleasure of presenting today. So I'd like to share a success story about an MBA and BSBA alum from Southern California. We'll call him Edward, although his name has been changed to protect his privacy. Edward's childhood was far from idyllic. Although his father served in the military, initially he was not the best role model. He had trouble finding stability after leaving the military, which unfortunately led to his parents separating. Growing up with 2 younger brothers and a single mother in a rough neighborhood provided many challenges for Edward. He saw friends end up in jail or lose their lives, and during his teens, he lost a brother to a drunk driver. It was around this time that Edward connected with his father for the first time in several years. His father had cleaned up and was on the right track. As the oldest, Edward felt that he had to be the one to set a positive example, which is exactly what he did. After graduation, Edward enlisted in the military, and he was all business. He earned a BSBA, first in his family to earn a college degree, and then an MBA, both from Trident. Earning his bachelor's gave him the extra boost needed for a significant military promotion. He went on to earn another master's degree and continues to serve in the military to this day. Congratulations to Edward. Good luck to everyone today. Hope to see you on graduation day. Have a great session.